Hello, you guys. I am so excited today. I've got my two savage sisters of the South. I think we should play a little bit of a drinking game. The more we slip into deeper Southern accents as we talk to each other, take a shot for us, because I was saying that before we started filming that our accents are probably going to get way more Southern. We're all in Georgia. We're all from this area of the world. And so, of course, I am joined with the lovely Jessica Jones from the Cryptid Huntress. And you guys know Angie, the Fickle Chickle. I will be placing both of their channel links down in the description box below. Y'all, okay, before we get into it, I almost forgot to do this. I do have to do a couple of advertisements. We have, you guys know, the lovely Catherine Edwards is doing a nutritional course, a new nutritional course. This is what she does for a living outside of her YouTube career, and she is offering 25% off. The coupon code is BRICE25. I will be putting the link in the description box below, and the coupon code, just type in BRICEA25 to get 25% off of that. And I know, Jessica, you've got something happening this Saturday, don't you?
I do. I'm going to be speaking at the Molina Bigfoot Festival down in Molina, Georgia. It's just south of Atlanta, and I would love for y'all to come see me. I'm presenting there just briefly, though, at around 10 a.m. at that festival. It's a great, beautiful small town with a lot of love for Bigfoot. So y'all come see me.
We got a lot of Bigfoot in Georgia, don't we? Like, that's kind of Georgia's a hot spot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have some of the we have one of the most famous Bigfoots from Georgia, actually.
Really?
Yeah, down in there, it's called the Elkins Creek Bigfoot. That's why they're doing the festival down there. Their whole town revolves around Bigfoot. Yeah.
We usually think about that. I think people think about it as like being like Washington State and Oregon, but no, y'all. And I don't know if I told you this, Jessica, and I'm just last minute before we get into the werewolf case. So my boyfriend is really into like Bigfoot and that kind of stuff. Like he's, you know, he also is a follower of the Cassiopeians. You guys know I talk about the channeling board, the Cassiopeians, a lot. Did I tell you, Jessica, who the Cassiopeians said Bigfoot? I don't know if I told you this. Who they say what Bigfoot is?
No.
That Bigfoot is a pet of the Greys.
Well, that would make sense. It could make sense, potentially. It could be. I don't know. We've actually detected them working together. You know.
Hey, Jessica, I'm getting like some spottiness with your video. I don't know.
Oh, I'm hearing the audio. Is your audio crackling?
Yeah.
You know what? I might need to switch over to my phone to do this. If it's is that okay?
That's totally fine.
We're recording, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Recording. Let me switch over.
Okay.
And I'm going to go on my phone.
Absolutely.
I have a lag with you guys, so that would be awesome. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I should have done this.
No worries. I keep trying to convince people we're all just doing this from our houses.
Oh my God,
not in a production studio.
I know Jessica's kind of the main event today, and I just don't want people to miss what she's saying.
Thank you.
Yeah. But while you're doing that, I can talk about what I've got going on a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know there's a Bigfoot festival that you've done before in Clayton, Georgia. And I'm up in Clayton all the time. And the day after Thanksgiving this year, I'm actually going to be at the first ever holiday market at Blue Canoe restaurant around Lake Burton. So I'm going to do a pickle tasting and have all my pickles and my pepper jellies and barbecue sauces there at Blue Canoe up at, well, I guess the address is like Clarksville, Georgia, but it's right there around Lake Burton where the old Laurel Lodge was.
Anyway, the address and information, I'll totally put it in the description box.
I don't know who else is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of artists and just a lot of local stuff there. We're all going to have our little tents and have a little holiday market the day after Thanksgiving.
Not Fat Friday. That's New Orleans. That's Mardi Gras.
Well, I guess it is Black Friday, but
well, it's Fat Friday because we're a little chunky the day after Thanksgiving here in America.
I would never go Black Friday shopping. Like I would go to something like what I'm going to be doing, but not like to a mall or a Walmart or something.
Do people even go to the malls anymore? I feel like that, and everyone just gets online now, don't they? Oh, the mall.
Yeah, I know. I can't stand the malls.
I know. No, I mean, I've already got most of my stuff done, but my nephew and nieces are at an age now where I can just put some money in an envelope and that's the best for them for Christmas.
Yes.
My youngest niece, I can still buy her Barbies, but she's still young, but the older ones, they like their money. So, can't blame them for that.
Barbie more than ever now. Ever since I saw that movie, I'm like Barbie obsessed.
I was big into Barbies when I was a kid, for sure. I loved my Barbies.
I wasn't allowed to play with them.
Jessica is going to bilocate.
There's two of you.
Oh man, you guys, I am so excited about this while she's loading up here. Because you've seen Angie and I talk about Mahalia Lancaster. I know Jessica has a very close tie to Mahalia Lancaster. And the case that we're going to be talking about today, I was saying off camera, Emy Bert, who is known as the Georgia werewolf. And I feel like she kind of follows me around.
Her last name is Burton?
Bert.
Bert.
Bert, not Burton. Bert.
Sorry,
Emy. And it's amazing. And I always feel like when it comes to stuff, especially, I'm going to post, we've done a few videos on Emy in the past, just her story. So I will link those stories, those videos down in the description box below, but I am going to review a little bit of Emy's story. She died over 100 years ago. So the fact that this legend is still kind of prevalent, especially with the youth of Georgia. I always often think where there's smoke, there's fire. And we're going to get into it, though. But before we get into that, before we talk about what Jessica picked up, because you guys know that Jessica can remote view. And so she's done her own little investigating into perhaps maybe what Emy wants us to know. And so I'm going to go ahead and share screen quickly so you guys can see. This is not a formal deep dive into Emy. You guys can, again, check out the videos we've already done on that. But this is Emy. This is her. And she was born to a very prominent family. I wouldn't say this area, Talbot, Georgia, is necessarily South Georgia, but it's kind of a little bit, I would say like a little bit below the middle Georgia. How close would you say Emy is to like where Mahalia Lancaster is from, Jessica? Is it relatively close, you think, Talbot?
It is. Yeah, it's absolutely it's pretty close, because I had a conversation with a woman who came on my show yesterday named Tina Lee. She's the clerk down in Molina, Georgia, where we're doing the Bigfoot Festival. And we were talking about the Elkins Creek Bigfoot, and she brought up I brought up the werewolf, I guess. I brought her up, and we made the connection. She said that that's very close to where they are down there. So that's around not too far from the troop herd corridor. Well, we have a whole lot of high strangeness that goes on down there, including Mahalia Lancaster's grave is down there.
Right. And something you mentioned too, which we'll get into it, Mahalia Lancaster's grave does get messed with a lot, and so does Emy's. And I know now, and I want to make this clear at once, before we get into this story, Emy's grave is now it's in her mother, the Owens family cemetery. So it's a family cemetery, which was very common back in those days. But it is now blocked off from the public because so many people try to get to her grave. And so if you go down to Talbot County and you try to see her grave, you might get charged with trespassing, which frankly, I don't blame them, because so many people have tried to mess with this grave and it is disrespectful. And I just want to also, I don't know about her, any descendants. Emy did not have any children, but any like great nieces and nephews and so forth. There might be some families still in the area. So just for anybody, FYI, if you're going to go on a mission to try to find this stuff, just be respectful, because I'm sure there's still some family that might be in the area. And I feel like, as I said off camera to you ladies, I feel a lot of empathy for this woman, for the woman Emy. So I'm just going to read you what it says on Find a Grave, which this website Find a Grave is so fast. I use this a lot for research to like draw family lines and what they say. So Emy Isabella Bert grew up in an area known as Pleasant Hill near Talbotton, Georgia. Although her name is mentioned in several books as being known as the Georgia werewolf, it is important to note that those stories are pure fiction. Emily Elizabeth Bert was not mentally ill. She did not suffer from a mental disease known as lycanthropy. She lived and learned from her mother, who was a great and kind person and extraordinary businesswoman. At the end of her death, Emily Isabella Bert owned about 300-acre estate in Talbot County, partial ownership of a warehouse in Talbot County, a house inland. Anyway, so she was very, very prominent. And this is where I learned, actually, the first time I covered this case, this is where I learned that Georgia was one of the first states to allow women the right to inherit. And I learned that from her because her family was very wealthy. And even though she had a few siblings, she was able to rightfully inherit her portion of her family's estate with her. She only had one brother. So if she was living in other states, it might have been the brother Joel who inherited everything. But because Georgia actually gave women that right to inherit, she was able to kind of establish herself. Now, a lot of people say it's very strange because in her inscription, it says, "Thy form alone is all, thank God. To that the grave is given, for we know thy soul, the better part, is safe, yes, in heaven." So a lot of people believe that this inscription written in 1911 that her niece paid for basically kind of gives merit to the legends of her being a werewolf. Now, I can see both things. It can, and it can lead to that, but it also could be like, oh, thank God your body's done now. You're done with this world. You can go to heaven. So they could be making something out of nothing with that. Now, let me just go ahead and pull this up as well so we can kind of, now again, as we were saying off screen, there's a lot of different kind of timeline stories that are happening here. Basically, what we know again is that she was born to a very wealthy family in Talbot County. Her father, whose name was Joel, her brother's name was also Joel, passed away when he was 40. And she was 6 when he died. And there is a story that her 2 sisters, so there's 1 boy and 3 girls, I believe. So her 2 sisters, I believe their names were Sarah and Mildred, were very beautiful girls, very, and very wealthy, prime picking for the debutantes, But Emy, it is said that Emy inherited a lot of her features from her father, that she was very hairy, which nowadays can be taken care of very easily, but I'm sure back in those days, maybe waxing and stuff that we do might not have been as available. And she was kind of a town weirdo in the sense that she preferred to stay in the library in the family's house. And maybe I feel empathy for her because I kind of feel like she's a woman after our own hearts, because it is said that she really liked paranormal books and to study the metaphysics. And I think that's something Angie, Jessica, and I all have in common with a lot of you guys watching right now.
I'm a little obsessed with it, yes.
Yeah, and back in those days, they didn't have TV. I mean, radio wasn't even around yet. So this is how she would entertain herself, was basically she would prefer to be alone. And also because she wasn't, she was kind of a wallflower. She wasn't the belle of the ball like her sisters were. And again, they say that she inherited this from her father. Now, being a man and being that hairy is not that big of a deal. But for a woman, that can be quite traumatizing, I would assume, especially in that time. Now, it goes on to say that some stories will say that her mother sent them off to like a European boarding school, all of them when they were kids. Others say that her and her sisters were actually sent off to etiquette schools, which that makes more sense to me in that time, that they would have been. I had to take, in 6th and 7th grade, I had to take etiquette classes on Sundays. Like that was still happening in the 90s, right? So that makes it that, how to be good hostesses, all that kind of stuff. And so that storyline actually made more sense to me, that she didn't send them to European boarding schools. She sent them to a etiquette school so that they could have their rightful place in society when they got married. Well, when they came back, people's livestock started to wind up not just dead, but drained of blood. And we still see this today, as we were saying off camera. You see this a lot, and they attribute it to like alien abductions. You see it a lot with Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah, which we've covered. And there, as the story goes, and I don't know if this part of the story is true or not, or if this is just a little added extra over time, an Eastern European man was living in the area, and he kept telling him that this was a werewolf. And so one of the sisters, Bose, the guy that was courting her, came and told Emy's mom about the situation, and a bunch of men were going to go out hunting for this werewolf with silver bullets. And Emy's mom, I like this lady. Her name was Mildred as well, because she was a widow by the time she was 37 years old, you know, and in today's time, that's young and sassy still. And I want to think back then she was still young and sassy. So her mom had inherited all her father's wealth as well. And the Owens family was I tried to follow them back. Like, they are really prominent pre-American Revolutionary families. That's the cemetery she's buried in. So it's like a double whammy. And so in Mildred, let's just call her Millie for short, she was a badass. And she kind of suspected, as the story goes, that it was her daughter, because Emy was kind of wandering off at night, sleepwalking, whatever you want to say, coming back. So her mom kind of suspected something was going on. And so she went out with the men and tried to kind of derail them from killing Emy. And Emy got shot. She heard a howl. And the next day, there was a bullet wound in her hand. Well, at that point, the story goes, she sent Emy to Paris, France. This just shows you how wealthy they were, too, that they were able to do this at this time. Paris, France, to study with a psychiatrist who specializes in lycanthropy. And lycanthropy is a mental disorder where people actually do think they are a werewolf. It usually is aligned with schizophrenia as well as bipolar disorder. I don't
think any of that's a disorder. I really think it's just real. I mean, I just think that.
And there's no other types of stories regarding her being bipolar. Now, there are stories of her lashing out at her sisters sometimes, but I mean, that could just be sisters too. So anyway, she never married. She became very prominent towards the end of her life. She did move up to Marietta, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta, with her niece, where she passed away, and now she's buried back. And they still say to this day that the ghost spirit of her wolfness or whatever still haunts roams Talbot County on like full moons. And so Jessica, who is the remote viewer, you got in contact with Miss Emy. Do you want to start from your perspective of what you kind of saw with this?
Oh my gosh, this is so unique to be able to do stuff like this, right? And this is what I love to do. It's I do something called remote viewing. Okay, and now with this remote viewing target, I have to be very honest about this. I was front loaded, so some people will say this is not actually remote viewing. Okay, but I knew kind of what the target was. I went in to try to make contact with her. Okay, and to try to find out just what was going on in her head. Okay, and so I kept hearing her talk to me, and what this is called is a deep mind probe. Okay, and so I did a deep mind probe. And she said it was made into something that it's not. Okay. But she said, nothing can stop me. I kept hearing things like that. I was picking up on an energy of her being very confined and trapped and not feeling like she was free, like feeling like she was stuck. She was kind of plotting revenge in a way. Okay. There were times where she felt like she was resentful, angry. I don't know, people have been cruel to her. Excuse me. And so I was picking up on her being tired, sad, lonely, and depressed, irritable, and trapped. So she felt trapped in a human body. All right, trapped in a human body. And what she said to me is, she said, it's inside my DNA, and there's nothing I can do. That was exactly what she said when I did a deep mind probe on her. So take of that what you will, make of it what you will. But I think that, I was picking up on potentially, we can go there with this if you want. I was picking up on there. So werewolves, vampires, skinwalkers. All right. They're all very similar. And what if, let's just put it out there. What if there was some kind of black magic involved with this? And maybe she was shape shifting. I didn't pick up on black magic in that data at all, but let's just put it out there. Do you think that could be one of the routes?
There's something about her father's family is what kept getting me, because he died when she was so young. So I think, and the fact that she genetically looked like her father and not her mother, like I said earlier, that in itself, and I think trauma, we look at like poltergeist situations and you have ghosts and you have poltergeist, right? And what typically is the cause of poltergeist? Teenage girls.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So and I also wonder, so in thinking of reincarnation, even that there could be the same kind of energy in someone from before Emy.
That's come that the payback. Well, I will say that. Well, that's what I'm saying with like the whole like teenage girls. Girls, for some reason, carry more potency. I'm not saying men don't, but girls carry way more, I think, metaphysical potency. And not saying this was a poltergeist, but the fact that girls, especially teenagers, are kind of pinpointed as having that ability to manifest something. And I definitely believe, if I had to guess, because in almost every research it says she was kind of the wallflower, she was probably snickered at, I would assume, because she wasn't like traditionally, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and each time period has different standards of beauty. I mean, 500 years ago, someone could see pictures of us and think we're totally non-attractive because, in 500 years, it might be purple skin that's attractive. Who knows? It's like, it just changes with time. Because I think she looks pretty. I think she looks pretty from her pictures, but that's me looking at her from my modern eyes. And so when you say that though, Jessica, I know, because I know so many people who are whistleblowers, and so do you, with these particular, we'll just say particular families. And again, guys, this is just speculation. Please do not bother this family if you know any of their relatives. Do you think it's a possibility that this was a quote unquote bloodline family?
Interesting. Blood comes up pretty often with some of these accounts, especially of werewolves, vampires, a lot of ritualistic stuff, especially with skinwalkers too. There's a lot of blood rituals going on, and back in that time period, I think that there was going on back then. It's gone throughout the history, to the beginning of time. They've been doing blood rituals and stuff. So, but that comes up with these cryptids that we look into, especially with voodoo, black magic.
Yeah.
So it could have some kind of tie to that.
That's it. And that, you guys, like skinwalkers, we typically think of them as being more Navajo. What I've kind of learned from you, Jessica, is that's not necessarily true. It might be the Navajo that were more open about this phenomenon, but they kind of happen everywhere, don't they, these skinwalkers?
Well, I know for
I don't even know anything about skinwalkers.
Oh, take it away, Jessica.
Okay. Yeah, skinwalkers are very interesting. Okay. Now, I was actually told by a Native American elder that he could turn me into a skinwalker. And I politely declined, okay, because it's really horrible what you do to become a skinwalker. Now, a skinwalker it gives you supernatural abilities. It's almost like you take on the persona, the characteristics of an animal usually. And it's through black magic rituals. It's a type of shamanism, okay? But it's very dark, and you are required to unalive, as we say on YouTube, someone that's close to you, like your child, your spouse, your parent, your sibling. And then you have to do some heinous crimes and some heinous acts. And then through all these magic rituals, you're able to and like I said, it involves putting like a pelt of an animal on you, like whatever you want to embody. Like if you want to be a wolf.
Because I've seen in like the old Western movies and all, you'll see like I don't know, like they're wearing the animal hides. Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay. So this is making sense now. Yeah.
Well, and so in the case of, let's just say, of Emily here, I mean, I'm not saying she did, but potentially she could have put on the skin of a wolf and become that wolf, I'm not saying she did. I don't think that she was a skinwalker, but I mean, that's
a whole different analogy to sheep and wolf's clothing.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, it's so funny when I covered the Skinwalker Ranch, which still to me is one of the most horrific that really affected me. Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah. And the Navajo, the one thing, because I try to look in deep what the Navajo taught with the skinwalkers. And it's interesting because the skinwalker is specifically tied to black magic. They tell their youngsters that you can either practice the light path or the black path, and they have to pick. And I know with shape shifting in general, it's not always negative. Like it's not always, we see in like the Sophia Code and some of the missing books of the Bible that Magdalene herself was able to shapeshift into a lion, which comes from the Lyran star system, right? And that's why the Bible often refers to the lion as the Christ, right? So And I have a friend who is very open about certain lineages will carry certain abilities in the DNA for particular people to shapeshift into particular animals. I mean, y'all, you remember True Blood, that show True Blood? It's
I never saw it, but
more like a documentary at this point.
I think so much is documentaries, really. I mean, they're just, yeah.
We did. Well, and Jessica, you were saying yesterday that somebody came on your channel to talk about a vampire in Kentucky that kind of resembled the same patterns as Emy.
Yes, yes. So, over the weekend, I had Ronald Murphy on my show. He's the crypto's guru. Okay, the guru, and he was talking about, we were talking about local legends, okay, and lore, and he was talking about a vampire. I don't remember his name, but he was from Kentucky from the 1920s, and the story that he told was almost identical to Emy's story. Okay, and so it made me wonder. But this is like from the backstory all the way to the animals having the blood drained in the area, and people not knowing where what was taking the animal's blood, and then they sent out a search party to go hunt this thing, and all the way to the grave of this person being desecrated to this day. It was almost like a template. Do you know what I mean? It was like the same story, but instead of a werewolf, it was a vampire. Okay, so it made me wonder, and I actually questioned this during the show. You know, is this just like a copy, cut and paste kind of a thing that people would do back then to people that were different, or they didn't like, or they suspected them of something nefarious?
You know, it was the same thing that happens today. Like, we were laughing off air that all three of us have been called a witch. We've been, I'm pretty sure I have a really hard time with tight things around my neck. And I read somewhere that if you struggle with that, like every time I get my hair cut, I feel like I'm panicking that you probably were hanged at some point, And so, LOL.
Yeah, I don't like a seatbelt.
Yeah. I just want to be like, we're back. But,
I really do constantly like tug at it and have to, like, it really bothers me. Like,
some people are really afraid of being underwater because that's what they would do, so I think we can rest assured that if it's bad in 2020 with all the science we have today, then it was probably even worse back in the because she was born in 1847. I think I forgot to mention that. And if we look at what was happening, I'm really obsessed with watching podcasts on religions as well, because culty religions fascinate me. And there was a podcast where they were talking about Joseph Smith and Mormonism, and they brought up a good point. And I'm going to bring it into this. In the early 1800s, America itself was a new country, right? And so we're still, even to this day, even leading up to the Civil War, people are still trying to find their footing in America as a country. And one thing this person brought up regarding Joseph Smith that I think could also apply to these legends is that for the first time, the American people had a true freedom of religion, where the church wasn't mandated by the state. That's why we see a lot of the preachers popping up, the tent revivals popping up, where people are just in a free-for-all. We're also at the eve of spiritualism. The whole my mind's going back blank. Blockovich, what was her name? Anyway, doing all that occult stuff. And then we've got Aleister Crowley coming up. We've got all these big names that are, in a sense, kind of opening people up to this realm of the unseen. And, a lot of times people will knock it and say, well, they just didn't know science back then. But we're still, I think it's safe to say there's a lot more of the unseen that I think we're tapping into. And it brought up another case, and I'm just going to share screen again. And this is a case I actually do want to cover with you ladies. I want to do a real big deep dive into it. That's the Bell Witch from Tennessee. Are you ladies familiar with this case in Adams, Tennessee?
I have it written down in my notes, but I have not looked at it. So I have it written down to like watch. So,
well, this is an A&E. I watched all the episodes of, and it's interesting. And I don't know what has been added for entertainment purposes. It's on Hulu, or what is true to the story. But basically, this family, I'm not going to get to the details of the case, but they're basically a family curse now. And it will skip every generation because of one person's doings. And they get to the point where they're kind of like, there's nothing we can do. Like, this is just, it's so strong. And so when she said, there's nothing I can do, it reminded me of the Bell Witch. And basically with the Bell Witch, it's called the Bell Witch because it was the Bell family, and they believed this Kate Batts, this woman, put a curse on the family, but that's not true because she actually died 27 years after the patriarch, and they've actually brought it back to the land, and there's a cave associated with it, and the Native Americans, and something got, I don't think it was on purpose, but it's basically every firstborn son of so many generations dies mysterious deaths. And so this guy who's a descendant is trying to stop it because his son is next in line, who's like a child. And so, and again, I don't know what was added to this show that was just purely entertainment or what was really real. I do believe, though, that there can be family curses that do follow people. I do think that is actually... And it's sad because the people that carry the brunt of the curse aren't the ones who caused it. That's what's unfair about it.
Well, like when off camera, before Jessica even got on, we were talking about my own family, and that I believe that Margaret, my biological grandmother, was a sacrifice. And also her aunt, also a sacrifice, kind of has something to do with the, I don't know if we can say it. Like,
yeah, it's fine, I think. Eastern Star.
Masonry. So,
yeah.
And my grandmother on the other side of my family, she just told me so many times, she's like, Angie, you are going to break the family curse. And so I think, like, I survived. I'm way over 24 years old. They both died at 24. It's a something, I don't know. But yeah, so family curses. Yep. Yeah.
Have
so
you
like today, it's still happening. I mean, it's real.
Have you run across any family curses, Jessica, in your work when you've viewed locations and people?
Oh, yeah. We talk about curses a lot. And a matter of fact, I've done a show on the Bell Witch. And it was one of my first remote viewing shows that I did. And where I had remote viewed the curse of the family, actually. Now, if I knew we were going to talk about this today, I would have brought all my paperwork and gotten my folder and had line item by line item. We could have gone down it because I didn't even think about it.
We'll do it another. We'll do it another. Guys, stay tuned.
We got another show idea. Okay. But yeah, it's a real curse. And from what I can remember, it seems like two little boys during the story, some of the boys were playing on a porch and they found a tooth rolled out of one of their pockets. It was from like an Indian burial grave site. And it went into the crease of the porch or something. And that like made the curse worse, or it cursed them or something. I mean, there's a lot of these curses in the South have to do with Indian burial mounds. Okay. And desecrating graves.
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about that with Mahaley Lancaster in her grave, and what people, when I was in high school, they used to go out there and desecrate her grave for fun, so that to see if they would get cursed. But yeah, with the Bell Witch, with the Bell, there's a cave there on the property in Tennessee. And if anybody goes there and takes a rock or a piece of gravel, even if a piece of gravel gets stuck in your shoe and you go home with that, you are cursed, they say. Okay.
I'm going to share a screen so people can see. And yes, in this series, they talk about because I believe, from what I understand, the Bell family, and this was around the same time, this was the 1800s. So the same time that Emy's having her issues, Mahaley Lancaster was born in the late 1800s. So this is kind of the same energetic area. And from what I understand, this cave was used by the Bell family when they moved to Adams, Tennessee, to store, it was like their refrigerator to store food. Well, turns out, from what someone said in the show, and I don't know, that this is a portal as well, this cave. And yeah, they brought that up. Now they blame it again on this woman named Kate Batts as being a witch, that there was some type of issues between John Bell and Kate Batts. They pretty much debunked that just because of some of the records. But Kate Batts, again, was a woman who was very eccentric, like the three of us, who her grandmother was Native American, so she would go and pick the herbs, and people thought, so she was kind of a scapegoat for this situation. But the story's wild, and as they say, this is one of the most famous paranormal cases in American history. And that's saying a lot, because we got like Amityville, we've got all these things going on, but this is one of the The locals are very weary of this, and like seem to have a lot of respect for the entity, because when you're in the South, this shit's real. Like, I don't know many Southerners who would mess with doubting the power of the unseen. But yeah, the person in the series I watched, the lady who takes people on tours into the Bell Witch Cave, says she will not go in there by herself. Like, that's how intense it is.
Yeah, and bringing it, when you mentioned it's a portal, bringing it back to Georgia is like where Mahaley and then the Georgia werewolf. I mean, this whole like corridor. I mean, it's like how big is that portal?
Right. Well, it was Appalachian Mountains too. Like, I'm sorry, guys, but Appalachia, I'm doing a series on Appalachia on Gnostic TV right now, and like, it is, y'all. Like, Appalachia is beautiful. I don't think there's any place in the world that's as pretty as Appalachia. But what's something you learn growing up around here is you don't mess with that mountain.
No, that's where we do all of our Bigfooting.
Bryce. Oh, go ahead, Jessica. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that's where we do most of our Bigfooting is up in the Appalachians. And not to mention modern day dinosaur reports coming out of the Appalachians, y'all. Okay.
Seeing like flying like big flying
pterosaurs.
Oh yeah, I wrote it down. I mean,
yeah, we have pterosaur sightings.
This is our first time ever talking together. So yeah, but how do you say it?
Pterosaurs. Or a pterodactyl.
Large flying creatures. And I put Gwinnett, Barrow, Heard, Franklin, Towns. Like, I wrote down like where people
counties that they y'all.
But talking about Appalachia, remember, I don't know if you saw my text message, Bryce, because I know you have your notifications silenced lately. But
I'm filming.
Dream. I Jessica, you're gonna find it. I mean, I get a lot like while I'm sleeping. So, and I'll just write down in a dream journal things that I see. But I had a dream, and I drew the person that I saw, and I Googled like all the different elements that I had drawn on around the girl that I saw, and it ended up being Freya. Do you know anything about the goddess Freya?
Oh, my dog's name is Freya. Yeah. Yeah. I have a German Shepherd named Freya. I do.
Oh God. See? And so yep, this was just a few nights ago. And I and the other thing was I'm always seeing or whenever I see the word Avalon, like anywhere I see it, I'm always like like it just like makes me think. Like I'm like, I've been ever since I was a child, Avalon. I don't know what it means at all, right? Well, then I started thinking about, okay, Freya. So I started looking up Freya, and it went back to Avalon somehow. And so this goes to Appalachia, because apparently there was a, before Atlantis, there was Avalonia.
Interesting.
And then it split off and formed, I think, the Appalachian Mountains or something. Anyway, so I'm looking into it, but this is all from a dream I had, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe, I mean, call it a dream, but I think it was real.
Well, do you know what's interesting too, as you're saying that, somebody left this comment, Jessica, in our last video. I think we mentioned Appalachia, or Scotland, the Northern Highlands of Scotland are technically a part of Appalachia. The chain, it goes, because it comes up Newfoundland down to central Alabama, and then it goes, I guess, under the ocean and into, and then what do we have in Scotland? We've got the Loch Ness Monster. So yes. What is it about Appalachia? And I know, Jessica, you're going to be doing some stuff with me on it, because I want you to tap into your spidey senses with some cases I'm covering on Gnostic. So I can't say too much about it now, but it's going to be releasing tomorrow video. The Native Americans, what we call the Native Americans, were not the First Nations. And they were very clear about that with the settlers, that they were not here first. There was another, that's going to be on Gnostic. We'll release the commercial tomorrow, but there was another group of people that were here,
This goes back to my dream. There's more to my dream.
And y'all, we see how much division they try to cause between us, but none of us know what the hell's going on. And so I mean, where Mahalia is and where Emy is, that's kind of at the base of Appalachia as well, isn't it? Like that's, North Georgia's mountainy. You could start driving south, and all of a sudden it starts dipping and getting flat as you go into Florida. It gets swampy. You got, oh my God, Okefenokee Swamp. Like, how many stories from Okefenokee Swamp do we have?
Oh, we have a giant story out of the Okefenokee Swamp. We have the attack of the giants of 1829.
No.
And yes, out of Okefenokee Swamp. And some people say that they think it was a clan of Bigfoot. But this is one of my remote viewing targets, one of my blind targets. And I picked up on giant humans. Okay, giant humans living deep in the swamps of the Okefenokee. This is in 1829. One of those giants killed 5 men, unalived 5 men.
No way.
Out there. Yeah, look, check it out. I mean, I have a show on it on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress. Okay, and it's a very well-known story. Now, a woman that has lived down at the Okefenokee Swamp, her name's Barb. I'm going to be seeing her on Saturday at the Bigfoot Festival. She told me later after that show, she said, Jessica, it's well known that a race of giants lived in the Okefenokee Swamp. So I got confirmation on that.
So in my dream, I dreamed that I was at a doctor's office. This is part of that same night. Just all these things. And I was at a doctor's office, and like I'm filling out paperwork where it asks like are you like male, female, Caucasian, whatever. And I checked a box that said Avalonian.
Oh,
you ever heard of that? Like Avalon, like
well, there's a big shopping mall here in Atlanta called Avalon. It's up in Alpharetta called Avalon. But I'm trying to show
that has something to do with like a time before.
I want to. I pulled the map up so our viewers from other countries can kind of see the area we're talking about and so the Okefenokee Swamp is kind of right here. Now, I would say Talbot County is probably like right around here. Can you guys see my cursor, my mouse cursor? Would that be correct? Can y'all say that? Would that be correct in saying that's where Talbot is, how close it is to Okefenokee? Now, when you look here, like right here, I don't know, Jessica, have you ever remote viewed the springs in North Florida?
No, I have not, but I've done some research down there, boots on the ground research, looking for a Bigfoot up in that exact area right there. It's not too far from Chattahoochee, Florida, where there's one of the most famous skunk ape sightings was filmed down there. So, yeah, a lot of high strangeness down in that area.
It is. So you guys in North Florida, Florida's interesting because North Florida is like the South and South Florida is like the North as far as like the culture is. But in North Florida, which is really just kind of South Georgia, I'm going to show you guys. I've been to a few of these springs, natural springs so you guys can see what they look like. They are beautiful. They're these crystal blue springs that are all over North Florida. And they're supposed to have these like crazy healing properties. When I was a kid, my grandmother, again, was from Quitman, Georgia. Her father, my great-grandfather, had a beach cabin in Alligator Point, Florida, called the Cabin.
Oh my God, stop it. Stop it.
Really?
Don't tell me that.
Why?
Because we had this is crazy, 2 trailers, okay, 2 single wide trailers in a fishing camp at Alligator Point. That's where I spent my childhood.
No way.
I swear. Oh my God. And Wakulla Springs?
Yes, I was about to say.
Did you swim with the alligators?
Yes, we would go there all the time. We would go down there, and I was a really little kid. This is where my parents got divorced. I stopped going down there because my mom's family is from the low country of South Carolina on the beach. So we would always go there. We were always going there. But once
oh my God, stop it.
We would drive down. We would always stop in Quitman.
Yeah.
See family, because apparently I don't want to say the last name, but they kind of own Quitman. I've learned some stuff about that family. they were high up in the Freemasonry, let's just put it that way. But then we would drive down to always go to Alligator Point, but we'd always stop at Wakulla Springs.
Oh yeah. I spent my childhood there swimming with the alligator. So you could swim with the alligators, y'all. Okay. And I look back on that. I would never let my son do that. So why in the world did my parents let us do that? That's my question.
I'm gonna show. Well, there's like let's see.
Jessica, my dad had a pet alligator for probably about 22 years
No,
that he would swim with. And he would
no
say,
way.
it's crazy, crazy man. He's crazy. But he would say that, oh, well, every now and then you got to hit him in the head to remind him who's boss. I mean, this is my dad, not me, y'all. But this,
This is just the South, y'all. This is normal for the
Oh my
South.
gosh.
I think
yeah,
I
he has a
looked with
Facebook page.
alligator too,
Look it
then
up on Facebook. Farley the alligator. He's got a Facebook page. But
I spelled it wrong, but here's the correct spelling. But yeah, this is Wakulla, right? Is that the right spelling? They're all Native American names. All of these, like Itchituckney is another one I've been to, the Itchitucky, that's near Lake City, Florida. They have, and it is freezing, isn't it, Jessica? The water is so freaking cold.
And it's filled with alligators. So please be careful if you take your kids, even though they let kids swim with alligators.
It is, I mean, look at that. Like, it is and there's a hotel there. That is wild. I didn't know anybody knew where alligators. That is Jessica. That is like gives me some goosebumps. I think this is what he's like. Y'all need to meet each other. So, but then when I started, so I didn't go to Florida for really many years because my mom's family, my parents got divorced. We were just mostly with my mom's family, so we would go to the low country of South Carolina. That's the beach we would go to. Stay there in Charleston, the Charleston area. And then when I started dating my current boyfriend, his family's from Florida. So we started going to Florida a lot. And I started rediscovering these springs, and it reminded me of Wakulla. And then I was like, hold on. Like, hold on. What the fuck's happening? Because these things got like legends. Like, they're plaques like about people being healed, and like they're freaking ice cold water when you're in this. I mean, the South in the summertime, guys, it is like walking through a bowl of hot soup. That's why we talk slow down here. You can't talk fast because it's too damn hot. You know, the humidity is unbelievable. Gnats all over you. And then all of a sudden you've got these freezing springs all over northern Florida with supposed healing properties. Now, those springs supposedly come from Okefenokee Swamp. So what the hell? Interesting, isn't it? And I know my friend Cindy, who's from Peru, she immigrated here when she was 4. She's very woo-woo too. She goes to Okefenokee all the time to do her little rituals. So she felt drawn to it. So what else do you know, Jessica? Give us the dirt, girl.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, about the Okefenokee, I don't know a ton about that, but I was told that there was a race of giants down there. And in that area, I mean, we've had wild man reports. We have Sasquatch sightings. They have a ton of skunk apes up there in that part of Florida. My buddy Connor Flynn, his name, he's got a YouTube channel called Bigfoot Anon. Okay, and that's Connor. He's like an expert, and I know none of us claim to be experts in the Bigfoot world, right? But he is my local go-to for Northern Florida local legends and lore. Okay, so he knows a lot. So y'all go to his channel and check him out. He pretty much goes boots on the ground, covers all these local legends on his channel, and you can probably learn something from him because I've learned a lot. But yeah, I don't know what the secret sauce is down there. There's something going on.
There's something going on.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a side, you know, I've been to Africa twice. And I know the 2 times that I was in Africa, my ex was a white African. And so there's something about the African continent that just cannot be tamed. And I kind of feel that about kind of South Georgia, parts of like in like New Orleans, the Bayou, like there are parts of like these areas that just cannot be tamed. And then we look back at the Bell Witch and the disturbance of the land and the desecration of graves. You know, the story they tell was accidental. The kids just didn't really know what they were doing. They weren't trying to harm anything. Has caused, and taking it back to Emy, it's like, is that what she was saying? Like, I can't stop this. It's so generational at this time that I'm just the one that got dealt this karmic inheritance, so to speak. And for that, I just have, because I know there's weird shit in my family. Like I thought about driving up to the Bell Witch Cave, but I don't know if I should go up there because I'm such a magnet for paranormal phenomenon. That's smart for me to do that, like to know my limits. how much empathy I have for Jessica. Did she give you any indication if there's anything we can do to help relieve her in death?
No, I didn't pick up on anything like that. She just said that it was inside her DNA. This is while she was here on this 3D plane. Okay. She was feeling trapped. And so I was just picking up on that. I think that she's at peace now.
Right.
Honestly, from what I was picking up, she's at peace now, but there was nothing that she could do at the time. And she just said that it was whatever it was inside her DNA, but she was lonely and she was depressed, okay, and tired and sad. And she just felt trapped. Maybe she was just a werewolf trapped in a girl's body. I don't know, but I did pick up that it was very karmic. I actually wrote that word down, was karmic. And I picked up also on timelines and time jumps and things like that. So you did mention a timeline and stuff. So I did pick up on that too. But yeah, she said it was made into something that it's not, is what she told me too. That was the first clairaudient thing that I heard, was it was made into something that it's not. Or made into something it's not. Now, I don't know if that was her, because that could be interpreted several ways.
Yeah.
Was she made into something that she's not, as like far as being a human, and then she turned into a werewolf? Or was the story made into something that it's not? It's very ambiguous, right?
Or is she just carrying the karma of something that she had nothing to do with, but she got blamed for it too, like, and I just, yeah. And I mean, every little thing in this world wants to be loved, like every little thing in this world wants to have companionship. And that was something that was reoccurring in all the different resources I looked at, was that there's no way she was going to get married. Like, there was no suitors there and I can imagine, my boyfriend and I were just having this conversation, like, empathy is great. But there's some circumstances where you're never going to understand what that feels like unless you're in it. And I feel like for her, that must have been really hard to have two classically beautiful sisters, classically beautiful mother, and for her to carry the brunt of, I feel like it came from her father's line, because if you're talking about DNA, apparently she looked just like him. And I'm sure that must have been hard for her to not have a lot of answers, because he died when she was 6. So to not have that person to talk to, and it seems like the mother, I mean, what do you girls think? It seems like the mother knew what was going on.
It does.
No, right? Mm-hmm. Moms know.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah. You would know, and she had that instinctive feeling when the guys were going out for the search party to go hunt that critter down. She knew that she better get out there and hightail it out to wherever they were going to protect her daughter, and that's just a motherly instinct. You know what I mean? So, and she knew.
She wasn't shocked by it. Makes me think maybe the mother knew that this was something having to do with the father's line. Maybe, I don't know. I'm speculating, because I would imagine if you were married to a man, you ladies know, I know, you pretty know much, the more you spend time with the man. I mean, there's some secrets people keep, and that's why relationships end. But, something like that, like if your husband was a skinwalker himself or connected, I think you would kind of know that if you were married to the guy. And, I just, my heart goes out to her. I just feel, actually, it's so funny. When I was looking at her grave, I noticed, I'm going to pull it back up, you guys, so you guys can see this. So again, she died in 1911. And this always is interesting to me when you see people currently leaving flowers at the grave. That's interesting. Like, when over 100 years, and I'm like, should I leave something? So it makes me think if there are people, so this was 2022, people are still leaving something for her, 20 flowers. I mean, obviously the internet was not around when she died, and she died in 1911. So I think people, I would hope that means there are many people living today that feel that sense of empathy for her and pain for her, for what she went through. And, it's, I can't imagine going my whole life without having a man and without, having, that interaction. And, I think she looks beautiful. I think she's a beautiful woman. I think that she's got beautiful cheekbones, but we don't know. We weren't there. She was born in 1841. I think I said 1847 earlier. but we weren't there at that time. And yeah, so anyway, but you guys,
He's a Leo.
he's a Leo. Well, there you go, a lion,
Like
right?
me.
Is there anything else you ladies want to say about her, or any more comments you want to make about Emy, or rest in
I mean,
peace?
I think it's cool to be considered a werewolf. I mean, I hope that when I'm gone one day, people are like, oh, Jessica Jones, that werewolf out of, West Georgia.
Yeah.
Yes, man. I mean, I would strive to be like Emy, okay? In death, posthumously. Is that how you say it?
Yes. So yeah,
whenever I died, I want to be buried out in my front yard, and I want there to be like one of these like markers that says, and some say that she was a witch.
Oh my God.
that census I found, I put it on Instagram, that census from like the 1800s, it was like Catherine whatever, 15 years old, occupation, does as she pleases.
Yes.
That's my favorite. That's gonna be well, I actually, was saying that too, the DNA, I feel like I'm inclined to say this on Aquarius Rising Africa on Mondays. I've been covering cases of famous people who have missing body parts after death. Yes. One being Mata Hari, Oliver Cromwell, Henry IV of France. And I was told that for black magic purposes, even though our soul leaves our body when we die, our body will still hold like remnants of our spirits. And so they take body parts of these enigmatic people and they use them for black magic ceremonies. And so, I guess Emy's story, if she's saying it was in her DNA, and these stories we're hearing about people with missing body parts, are all saying the same thing. There's something very powerful about us as human beings. And I think, maybe our ancestors knew what that was. Maybe after the reset or the last mud flood, that was knocked out of us, and we're not relying so much on exterior sources to heal us when actually we're pretty magical ourselves. And you're right, Emy obviously had magic to her, and that's not a bad thing. And I hope she's hearing this. I hope she's hearing us talk about her and kind of, validate her and also venerate her for being, a pretty fierce woman too. I mean, her mama was a fierce woman as well. So, it's rest in peace, Emy. Like, rest in peace, girl. Like, please don't ever desecrate anybody's grave. I don't care who you think that person was. I can't think of anything as disrespectful to a living being than to desecrate their grave. And just please be respectful. I know even in street art with people who do graffiti, there is a rule on the streets that you don't touch graves and you don't touch historical landmarks. So if the street artists have that rule, maybe us human beings should have that as well. How would you feel if you were that person? And but by the grace of God go I. So I wish we could go see her. I want to go see Mahalia Lancaster's grave, but I know we can't go. Emy's grave, rightly so, has been blocked off by the family. So you will, I've heard many stories, you will get, if they catch you, you will be charged with trespassing. So just be very mindful of that. And yeah, again, I think she does probably have some descendants out there. So just be very respectful of the family. And I think we have a few more shows to do, ladies. I think we got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, I'm like thinking over here. I'm thinking, Darien, Georgia. There's supposed to be like the Georgia Loch Ness, something like something there. I don't know. I mean, I deliver my pickles down there to a store, and I've always wanted to stop and like really kind of explore that area too.
We just gonna go by county by county.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can start up in Clayton too, because that's where we have the Georgia Bigfoot Festival the Georgia Bigfoot Conference every year up near Lake Burton. Yeah, actually. So yeah, I mean,
I'm there all the time.
We have so many cryptids in Georgia, and I've experienced some myself. Okay, but the Troop Herd Corridor is a great place to start too, with all the alien abductions that happen out there. The Bigfoots, the dog men. Okay, now listen, when I die, I want people to think I was a dog man. Okay. I was a dog woman. Yes.
Heard it here first, people.
A dog woman. Yeah, Jessica the dog woman.
Like
So,
Mothman. I mean, somebody on my Facebook last night I said that we were going to be filming about this, and so people were like commenting different things. And one girl said, she does like paranormal stuff, and she said that they were out seeking the Mothman a couple of nights ago. So
that's Appalachia too. That's West Virginia. That's Appalachia. You know, that it's and yes, I'm going to be doing a huge series on Appalachian Mountain Guys, also on Gnostic TV. Now, the things I release on Gnostic TV are not going to be released on YouTube or Rumble, and I'm taking this opportunity to really, because there's absolutely no censorship on Gnostic, so I can really go deep into really exploring. And so that link is also down in the description box below. You'll recognize a lot of people, like Laura Eisenhower's on there. A lot of people who've gotten booted off of YouTube quite a few times are now on there. And so, yeah, I think Angie J was talking to you about doing some
on there. We're going to talk. I had some conflicts with it. We were playing phone tag, but we're going to be talking about me possibly doing a little cooking thing on there.
Yeah, it's all they want to do on Gnostic TV is give people a place to just explore ideas, better their life. All of us, I want to get Jessica on there. I already talked to the owner about Jessica, and I'm gonna have her come on and do some remote viewing on some subjects that I've covered. One she's already remote viewed that I've covered that I can't wait to get her on for. That's a huge mystery. Gobekli Tepe. That is a huge, interesting piece of history that's landed in our laps. And then, of course, the big old corporate enterprises came in and every time they take it over, UNICEF or United Nations come and take something over, you're like, interesting. Now we know nothing. They're going to shut that shit down. So, guys, make sure you go check that out. And ladies, I think next time we should definitely cover Bell Witch. And I will do a part 1 for you guys. So I'll deep dive in and tell you guys all the story, especially for people who are not from America. I will do a big part 1 so you have all the details you need. And then we'll do a part 2 where we can get you guys in and Jessica can tell us what she knows about the Bell Witch. And I would love to hear from our viewers from other countries. Like, let us know if there are stories that ring a bell from your folklore and legend in your country. Like, this can't just be an American phenomenon, right? Like, this shit that probably happening everywhere. So let us know your local legends, and let's see if there's any similarities. So anyway, thank you so much, ladies. Happy Thanksgiving, you guys. I know next week's going to be a little bit slow because we got Thanksgiving here. Jessica, are you familiar with pineapple casserole?
No, but I'd eat it. Sounds good.
I'll show you. I was on with Shanti in South Africa yesterday, and we got on a tangent about all pear salad, which is just pears, mayonnaise, and cherries.
So yummy.
Yeah.
I don't do mine with the cherry. I just do the pears, mayonnaise, and cheese. Like just
the cheese. I forgot the cheese. I forgot to tell them about the cheese. Yeah. And my favorite was somebody said once, when my mama made a pear salad, you knew the preacher was coming over. So, you guys, we do have Thanksgiving next week here in the South and in the United States. And so it might be a little bit slow next week, but I'm excited, ladies. We got some cases to crack here in Georgia. And yeah, you guys, happy Thanksgiving to everybody who's watching from America. And we will go check out Jessica's channel and Angie's channel, guys. And we will talk to all of you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.